Whether you are squatting, lunging, step-upping, deadlifting, walking, whatever, it's really important that you properly ground your foot, because without a stable foot, everything above that is going to be less stable and less able to produce force. But there's a right and a wrong way to do that, so here's what you want to think about for all of those activities in terms of what your feet should be doing. So the first big idea is that you want to ground your feet into the floor and make your foot active. Now, when you're doing this, what we don't want to do is crunch up the toes, right? We want to make sure that we're actually spreading them out. So there's two key points here. One, I like to think about the foot like a tripod between the kind of big toe, ball of the big toe, the little toe, ball of the little toe, and the heel. And we want to have an even weight distribution forward and back, and also side to side. The second thing I like to think about is the foot almost like a suction cup that we're trying to squish into the ground. So again, I'm not thinking about clawing in as much as actively pushing down and out and spreading down into the floor with some pressure. Again, just like how a suction cup would just evenly radiate out into the floor. In order to properly ground your feet, like we've talked about, what you need to be able to do is actually have the ability to spread out your toes. So there's a couple things that come into play. One is shoe selection. When you're trying on a pair of shoes, if you can't spread your toes out inside there and they're forcing your feet to kind of like get mashed up like this and your toes to get compressed, that's not good. That's not going to help you perform better. So when you're trying on your shoes, you want to make sure you can do the toe wiggle test and spread those feet out a little bit. That's going to improve your balance, stability, and overall performance. The second thing you want to pay attention to is whether or not you even have the ability to do that, because if you've been wearing really tight shoes for a while and your toes are all mashed up, you may need to do some foot stretches or mobility drills to get those toes separated out a little bit so that you can start to strengthen them and get them kind of doing what they need to do. Here's a really simple way to do that. You're going to take your fingers and you're going to push them in between each one of your toes like this. And you're just going to rotate, rock back and forth, creating some space in there. You're going to hold that for about 45 seconds or a couple minutes, something in there. And at first, if you've never done this before, this may feel like a painful, very intense stretch. So just ease into it. As you get better, you're going to be able to jam those fingers deeper in between your toes and splay those bad boys out. The second thing that you can do is take your toes and just work them back and forth, each one like this. Work a few different angles, right? Do the next one, back and forth, spread them out, right? This is something you can do when you're watching TV or before bed or something like that. A little bit each day until you actually have a little bit of space in between your toes and they are not completely together. Another key aspect of your sort of foot, ankle strength and stability is your ability to actually have dexterity and strength in your toes. Right? Your toes are important for kind of grounding into the floor, and if you basically have no control over those at all, you're really limiting yourself. So what you want to be able to do is independently move your toes. And the best starting point for this, because it's your biggest, strongest toe, is your big toe. So you're basically going to try to move just that toe without moving the other ones. And once you can do that, you're going to try to move all the other ones while keeping the big toe planted. And then after that, you can try to control individual ones, which is really hard, and you can have the kind of piano toes. So once you have that basic understanding and that ability to spread your feet out, you can start practicing this. It's a great thing to do in your warm-ups or just when you're kicking around at home. First thing you can do is just work on just single leg balance. And what I'm thinking about is gripping that foot into the floor and spreading it out as actively as I can. And that should feel a lot more stable, a lot different than if you just allow that foot to relax and just kind of go limp. So I'm trying to do that, and what I'm thinking about is having as little flinches in my foot and ankle as possible. I want to be like a statue ideally and avoid these kind of little things as I get better and better. From there, I can go ahead and progress into a single leg Romanian deadlift or hip hinge hold. I'm looking at doing the exact same thing, just minimize the amount of flinches that I have. And then of course, you want to practice your bilateral exercises as well. Obviously, normally you would do this with either 2 shoes or no shoes, but right? I'm practicing grounding my feet in that squat, and my feet, again, should not move at all. Sometimes the best way to look at this is from a rear view. Let's check that out. And then once you have kind of mastered all of that stuff, I also really like doing some more dynamic work. So you want to practice maybe things like lunges, where your feet are moving, and even stuff like single leg skipping. I don't have a skipping rope, but just imagine I did, right? Where I'm maintaining that tripod foot and that kind of active foot when I land. See if you can do, at least a minute of single skips with really good form without having any little variance, and you'll be well on your way to having strong, mobile, grippy feet.